Thank you. All right, let's open in prayer. Father, we are grateful that you have brought us together today here at this place, and we thank you for what you did those many years ago in the hearts and minds of those families who decided to start this school. They certainly couldn't have envisioned what you have done, and so we recognize your goodness and your grace in this place. As we have this conversation this morning, I pray that it would be enlightening and fruitful, and that all of us would come away from here wondering in your goodness and in your grace. And we pray all of this in the name of Jesus Christ, our King. Amen. Well, good morning and welcome. I've facilitated these discussions for a number of years, and it's good to be back doing it again. I don't think we've done it in a couple of years, and like everything with COVID, everything shutting down. So it's always good when we come back to do these traditions, these things that we've done over the years. And so I've asked these 5 seniors to come and be the panelists for our discussion today. So let's start by having all of you introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been at Geneva. And if you want to tell us what house you're in, you can tell us your house as well. So go ahead.
I'm Jacob Deshawn. I've been here since 3rd grade, and I am in the House of Lewis.
My name is Grant Mowry. I've been here since the 1st grade, and I'm of the House of Sayers.
My name is Lily Langenbaum, and I've been here since kindergarten, and I'm in Chaucer.
Hi, my name is Annabeth Muck. Yeah, it's a horrible last name. It's okay. I've been here since 9th grade, 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and I'm in the best house, Sayers.
My name is Lauren McDaniel. I've also been here since kindergarten, so 13 years, and I'm in the house of Chaucer.
All right, I didn't pick anyone from Milton. Interesting. Sorry, the house that my daughter is in, and I used to be in. So, now as I told them just a minute ago, they don't necessarily have to go down the line and answer the questions. I want it to be more of a conversation, and so as your classmates talk, if something comes up to your mind, just go ahead and throw it out there. You don't need to wait for me to ask the question, but I want to start by asking you about the opportunities that are available to you as a rhetoric school student. Maybe talk about some of the things that you've been involved in, and not only that, but how you've had the opportunity to be involved in a number of different things. So maybe someone who's been here since kindergarten should start. So go.
That sounds like cute. So that's actually something I really love about Geneva, is because it is kind of a smaller community. There's so many opportunities to be involved in so much. And so personally, like from my time at Geneva, I've been able to play volleyball. I did track my freshman year, then I kind of petered off of that. But volleyball, and then I've been able to serve on yearbook for the past 4 years, which has been awesome. And then also at Geneva, we have something called the Student Senate, which is kind of the equivalent of like Student Council at public school, but at Geneva it's Student Senate. And it basically is 16 high schoolers, and you can all come together and you kind of help talk about the culture of school, or make decisions, or give Mr. Russell the inside scoop on everything. And that's been great to serve on. So I think that's honestly something that Geneva has to offer that other schools don't, is you can really get plugged into so many different things of Geneva, as opposed to other schools you may only be able to be really focused on this or this or this, but at Geneva you can kind of dive deep into a whole bunch of different activities and things that we offer. So.
And Lily is the president of the Student Senate. So, Lauren, you want to talk about your experience?
So, I'm not athletic whatsoever. So, I'm a big fine arts person. I've been singing since I was 7, and I've been playing guitar since middle school. And I'm a very active member in choir. And the fine arts program at Geneva is just amazing. And we placed 2nd this year in competition for choir. And I've been part of a small music ensemble called a praise band, which is where we just sing worship songs together. And I am the president of our NHS, and so I've been able to work alongside foundations and ministries in our community and to serve them well. And so that's been a really cool experience this year. And yeah, that's what I have to say. That's what
Somebody else want to share their experience?
Yeah, sure. So I am also in choir. I really love it. I've been in it since 9th grade, so I started out with it. My brother, who came to Geneva before me in 6th grade, and he was in choir, and he got me into it. So we're both buddies in choir, which is awesome. I also take piano lessons from a choir director's wife, so I also can do that. I do that outside of Geneva, but I also, with that piano, I give piano lessons to 15 piano students, some of them being Geneva students. I also do that. I do equestrian activities, like equestrian sports, and I use that as athletic credit. So that does show that you have other time to do other extracurricular activities also if you desire to do so. So that's what I do as my athletics, is equestrian. So that's my
Grant, you've got a TAPS championship
Yes.
Texas patch on your letter jacket. So you want to talk a little bit about sports?
Yes. So in my career in high school, I've been really involved in sports, specifically football all 4 years. I was a part of track and basketball and football freshman year. Then I had some injuries that put me out, so I stuck with football. But I've been a part of the athletics of Geneva. And it's been really special. The coaches that they have in Geneva really pour into the kids, and you especially see it throughout the years as you grow up, how these coaches have molded you into the young man or young woman that you are today. Whether it's the hard workouts that they're pushing you every single day, or just the times where they take you aside and maybe they give you some encouragement. It's really special how we can have this one-on-one relationships with the coach that may not be there with like a huge public school program, but athletics have been huge for me, and really appreciate that.
Have you been in a fine art as well?
I was in band freshman and sophomore year, and that was also a cool experience.
Yeah.
So I juggled that with sports.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about these students is you'll be at a football game and the band will play, and a third of the band is on the football team, and they're out there in their football uniforms. You know, they've just competed on the field, and then they're out there playing their trumpet or whatever. So great opportunities across the board for Geneva students. Jacob, you want to talk any about your experiences?
Yeah. I'm a huge fine arts fanboy too, and I've been in guitar since 7th grade, and I've got to say, it is the most, just everyone in that room cares about each other so much. It's just, the guitar community, even though it's really small, it's just really cool. Going to state with those people and going to competitions with people is super fun. Also, just random clubs at Geneva. Like, you can start a club for whatever you want to, as long as you have a teacher sponsor. And I've been a part of those, even though they're not serious. Like, I've been a part of ping pong club. I know I went to Disney club with Mr. Harold in 9th grade. There's just all these random clubs you can go to as well, which kind of shape the essence of Geneva.
Yeah, and those are student-led and directed. So the students are the ones who come with the ideas about, hey, I'd like to do this club, and they have a faculty sponsor for that. Anyone else want to share anything about the kind of the overall experience? I meant to ask you this when you introduced yourself. Tell me if you know yet where you're going to college and what you plan on studying.
I'm going to Belmont University. It's up in Nashville, Tennessee, and I want to do music business.
I'm going to Texas A&M this next year.
Yeah, I knew there's always one. There's always one.
I'm going in to study a BA in economics, but I'd like to get into the May School of Business as soon as I can.
I'm going to A&M as well, and I'm studying biomedical science, and I'm going to minor in Spanish.
Texas A&M University. For biomedical sciences within the Honors College, and I'm hoping to bring my horse to compete in the ranch horse.
We did not plan this, but I'm also going to Texas A&M University. And I'm also studying biomedical science on the pre-med track.
Nice.
We'll be together.
Yeah.
We'll be together. Clearly, I need to get a more diverse panel. which is not easy because so many of them end up going to Texas A&M. If you were to give advice to a grammar school student about being a student at Geneva, especially as you think of moving on to logic school and into rhetoric school, what kind of advice would you give that grammar school student?
I think the advice I would give is really to this is actually something I learned from my oldest brother who went here and now he's about to graduate from A&M, which is crazy. But he just told me, Lily, whatever you do, just be all in. And I think that is also what I would tell kindergartners or people in elementary school is really to just be all in. And just like anything else in life, like what students put into Geneva is what they're going to get out of it. And I've loved my experience at Geneva because I've found really cool things to be involved in, like we all just talked about, and all of us are pretty well involved across campus. And we've been able to learn a lot of things and get a lot of things out of our Geneva education because of what we've put into it. And so I think that is how I would encourage kids that are younger, is just be all in, like in the silly house days, like house induction day or field day, just be all in. If there's an organization on campus that you want to get involved in, just do it, try it out, see where it leads you, because once again, what you put in is going to be what you get out. So that's what I would say.
She mentioned induction day. If you've never been to induction day, you need to come to induction day. It's a whole lot of fun. All right, advice for a grammar school student.
Yeah, so I would just say to not give up, just keep going. Because I remember when I was in grammar school, it was hard. There was definitely some times where I struggled. But as I got older, it got easier and I matured more. So I would just say don't give up because it's worth it in the end. This being here has really helped me to cultivate good skills that I will take into college, and I'll be ahead of the game hopefully. So I would definitely say to not give up and just keep on pushing.
I would say cherish what you have now, because now that I'm graduating, going to a big secular school with a lot more people than I'm used to, it's going to be hard.
Just 70,000.
Yeah, it's going to be hard to find that one-on-one relationship with a faculty member and just being in a nice Christian community. So just cherish it, learn from it, and being able to bring that to this big university will really help. So I would say just love what you're doing and cherish what you have, because you're not always going to have it.
I would tell them to use what you're given. Grammar school and all throughout Geneva, they mold the kids, and you can really see that over time. I credit my first grade teacher with giving me like the work ethic that has taken me to where I am now. And you may not notice that when you're a little grammar schooler, but just take what you're given and keep working with the teachers that are pouring into you, and you'll see how that pays out over time.
Yeah, to add on to what Annabeth said, just don't take it for granted. Time flies. I remember being in 5th grade and telling my mom, hey, I'm going to 6th grade, isn't that crazy? And now I'm about to graduate this year. Like, that's just crazy to me. And there were tons of times that I definitely could have sat in the moment more and not been looking ahead. So I'd probably just say, enjoy it while you're here. This is an amazing place. And you're not going to find this anywhere else, so enjoy it.
Excellent. A couple of you mentioned relationships with faculty members, and I think that's one of the unique things about the Geneva Rhetoric School. So could you all expand upon that a little bit more? Talk about the relationships you're able to develop with the faculty at the Geneva Rhetoric School.
Okay, I'll go. I think that is honestly one of the things that I love most about Geneva. For starters, you know that your teachers truly care about you, yes, as a student, but more as like a Christian, and they want you to end up becoming like a disciple of Christ. And we see that in the fact that all of our teachers get here, I think it's at 7:40, right?
Yep.
And they pray for us, which is just incredible to think like, oh my goodness, my teachers, as I'm driving to school, are like praying for me. And they truly are rooting for me. So I think that that's a huge thing. Also, Catherine Davis, she's the AP stats teacher in sophomore, right?
Yeah.
Sophomore
Geometry.
math.
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
Whatever,
Algebra two,
sophomore,
yeah.
okay,
Algebra two.
Algebra 2. She actually leads a campaigners group for me through Young Life, and it's actually this afternoon, now that I mention that. And so that's been really cool to see how like the teacher has come alongside of me and some other senior girls and is really like mentoring and discipling us. And so I think that is something really cool that the faculty doesn't necessarily just see you as a student, but they see you as someone to come alongside and to really help you through high school and encourage you to grow your relationship with the Lord. So I'd say that is a major plus of Rhetoric School.
Anyone else want to talk about those relationships?
Yeah, for me, there are several teachers that I would consider my friend. And I think that's just crazy cool that I've developed that deep relationship with so many people, and that I know they're willing to pour into me. For example, Mr. Arispe, the guitar teacher, and Mr. Johnson, our 11th grade humanities teacher, they put on this rock concert at Geneva in the MPB a few weeks ago, and they asked me, Brooks Fessler, and Nicholas Slur to play for it. So you have these two adult bands who have been playing for years and years to ask these high schoolers to play just because they just wanted to involve us in something. I thought that was really cool.
Going off of what Jacob says, the teachers really become more of like your friends over time. At first, it's like you kind of just getting to know each other. It's a little weird, but over time, they really do become friends. Like Mr. Johnson, he also said, really great guy, fun guy to be around. And the athletics too. The coaches become friends and kind of like fathers too. They really want to make us on a football team. For me, they really stress making us into well-rounded young men. And there's Coach McNeil, who's no longer part of football, but his first year was my 8th grade year, so we've kind of been through it together, and it's cool growing up with him, and he's just always been there for me. It's really special.
I would say our relationship with the faculty allows me to, if I ever need help, I don't feel scared to go up and talk to them. And also, like, they listen to us. So, for instance, this year, senior year is a little stressful because you have graduation and thesis and all that. And our humanities teacher, Mr. Southwick, has this whole year been saying, okay, what do y'all need? Do I need to make this harder? Do I need to make this? Do I need to back up a little bit? And so he's been really cooperative with us, and it's made his class more enjoyable. And so
Going off of what Lauren said, yeah, Mr. Southwick, he asked us questions whether we should keep these books in the curriculum, or we're learning this the right way, or should we be learning this? And he makes us take hold of our education and really think about what we're learning, and not being just getting on the train and just going for the ride. Our teachers are having us really consider what we're doing and asking us questions about whether it's best for us or not. So I actually really appreciate that. Also, for me, a definition of good teachers, they have to have a lot of humor, and a lot of our teachers have that. Our choir director is absolutely amazing. He'll do Bible studies once in a while before class, and he'll say the most random things. I'll be having a hard day, and he'll just make me laugh and make me feel more free. So.
It's great.
Yeah, it's really cool when you can look around on the boardwalk and I see multiple kids that have secret handshakes with the teachers. I don't think you get that everywhere, but I just want to add that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and life on the boardwalk is really fun because teachers will be out there, students will be out there, and you never know what random... I'll have kids come up to me and ask me these strange philosophical, theological questions, and then a conversation or a debate will just break out. And that's a normal part of life on the boardwalk, that those things just happen. So we've talked about all the great things. What are some hard things about Geneva? You can be honest, but not too honest. Any hard things?
I would say for me, I have a lot of friends who go to Champion and Bernie High and just random public schools all around. And a lot of them are in these advanced classes and these honors classes. And our on-level courses are as hard, if not harder, than their honors courses. And that's just what you get when you come to Geneva. You're signing up for a more difficult, more rigorous education. You're going to get harder courses. You're going to have to put more work into it. You're going to get more homework. And I would say even though it's harder, it is very beneficial. It can be stressful at times, but I appreciate it. I feel like I'm much more prepared for college than I would be if I'd gone to a public school.
Yeah, Geneva students don't get to choose whether they want to be in honors. They're in honors. All of our classes are taught at an honors level. Other hard things.
I would say currently the hardest thing for me now is finishing strong. That makes, because we all at this table are suffering from senioritis right now, and we only have a little less than 2 weeks till our last day of class. So the hardest part is just trying to push through, finish strong, but at the same time, like, you're ready to be done. So it's a little hard to like find the balance. So that's what I'm still struggling with right now. I would say that's the hardest thing this year that I've struggled with.
Everybody's nodding their head.
I think I'm going to take a step away from the academics and look more like the relational side. I think that it's awesome that Geneva is so small and there's so many pluses, but I think that that also presents some challenges because there's only 60 people in your grade, it's a lot more easy to form relationships, and it's also easier to kind of not to feel like the need to really dive into relationships. And I think that this kind of goes back to the 2 questions ago, like how would you encourage a kindergartner? I think it's so important to really like not take the relationships you have for granted, and I think that sometimes that can be easy, and I can be guilty of that because there are only 60 people, so it's super easy to make friends as opposed to a really big school where it's like, oh my goodness, I've nowhere to sit during lunch. Like, we all know each other. If my friends are gone, I literally could go sit with anyone. And so I think sometimes it is easy to take those relationships for granted, and it's just really important to truly like dive into those relationships and to get to know people more on a personal level, as opposed to just like, hey, I sit next to you at lunch, or like kind of surface area relationships, or surface level relationships. And so that's how I would, going back to 2 questions, how I would also encourage younger people, and then just kind of to really dive into those relationships and not take them for granted, because I think at Geneva sometimes it's easy to take those relationships for granted. So
I would say 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, I studied way too much. Like, I would always, my face was always in a book. We'd read a book, and then we would have a test on it. I would read the whole book again. Like, I was that ridiculous. So, I don't look back on that time, and I wish I rode my horse more. But other than that, I think that's what I struggle with the most. It's more of an individual problem rather than, yeah.
That's a problem I've never heard before. I read the book twice. So, well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I agree with Jacob, as he said, that Geneva does push you academically. Especially, a lot of people say junior year is the hardest year, and I would agree with that. It is a very difficult year. A lot of people take on really heavy workloads, but I think looking back on it, it was for the better. It pushed us, and now we know how far we can push ourselves, and it's really cool.
That's great. That's great. We have what's called a Geneva Portrait of a Graduate, and the Portrait of a Graduate talks about the Geneva graduate being a disciple of Jesus Christ, and we want them to be disciples of Christ so that they can go out into the world and make a difference for Christ and His kingdom. And part of that is being able to winsomely communicate, whether they're in the workplace or at school or any other place that they might find themselves. And the culmination of the Geneva part of winsomely communicating is the senior thesis. Lauren said they're done in a little under 2 weeks, and that's true, but then they have to do their senior thesis. So can someone talk a little bit about what is the senior thesis, and then if all of you would talk about your experience doing your senior thesis. What's your topic? How did you choose it? What's the preparation been like for this end of year project?
So the senior thesis, I don't know how much y'all know about it, but it's basically, you can choose any topic and you start working on it, honestly at the end of your junior year. I know that the juniors have already started working on it. and you choose pretty much any topic. That's something that I love about it, is there really are no, for the most part, no restraints on what Geneva will and will not let you argue, so you really can choose whatever you want, which is so cool. So you start researching over the summer, and then you write an argumentative, I guess, essay or paper on it. Usually it's around 13 pages, and then you take that paper and you cut it down to like a presentation piece that you can present, because you have to change some of that language so it makes a little more sense when you're talking. And then from there, the second semester is practically all memorizing that whole paper. It goes from like 13 pages to 9 to 11-ish. So then you memorize it, and then in May there's a schedule, and you present it to your peers or to teachers who want to come watch. And there's also a panel of judges, and they ask you questions after you present it. So like what Mr. Russell was saying, you have to not only like present it, but you also have to be able to persuasively explain like why you believe you're correct and other people are not. And so we are all at the point where we have something called a practice panel, and so everyone does like a practice run through, and I think everyone at this table has done theirs. So now we just have the actual thing coming up. So what are we supposed to talk about now?
Well, what's your topic?
Oh, my topic. My topic is on the lack of access to affordable quality healthcare in America. And so I'm basically making a case for expanding access to affordable quality healthcare.
Anybody else want to talk about, tell us what your thesis is, and then talk a little bit about the process.
Yeah. So my thesis is really, really tough. So it deals with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict that's happening right now. And the Western church, basically I mean the evangelical non-denominational churches that we have here in the western part of the world, most of them, not all of them, hold this idea of Christian Zionism, which basically is the idea that the Jewish nation state of Israel should control and own the land of Palestine. And basically the Palestinians do not exist and they do not matter. However, there is a small minority group, and they're Palestinian Christians. And then having this idea of Christian Zionism and the Palestinians are worthless and do not exist, they are hurting their own Christian brothers and sisters. So my thesis is calling for a change in perspective and awareness. My thesis is not an argument for or against the states of Israel and Palestine. I'm just basically focusing on the commands of Scripture, where it calls us to love justice and kindness and to walk humbly with our God and to stand and care for other churches. And it's pretty cool, these Palestinian Christians, there's a variety of denominations. There's a lot of Lutheran, there's a lot of Roman Catholic and Greek Orthodox, and Maronite and Episcopalian actually. So during the summer we had to read a pro book and a con book. So for my pro book, I read this book called A Palestinian Christian Narrative of Lament and Hope. It's also called On the Other Side of the Wall. And it's written by a Palestinian pastor who actually lives in Palestine. He's a Lutheran pastor. And I actually had the opportunity to have a Zoom call with him. That was interesting, because we're both from different countries and we're like on different sides of a computer. It was really weird, but I got a lot of cool things from him, and I quote him a lot in my thesis. But yeah, and I also did a lot of internet research about the situation. I read a book on the history also, just so I could get a better handle on what has been happening, what is happening. And there's a lot that went on. So my thesis is really hard, because I'm trying to stay away from most of the politics, but yet it's a political and religious situation. So it's really hard to stay away from that. But I'm just trying to remain simple and call for our churches not to allow this certain theology to basically blind us from protecting our other Christian brothers and sisters. Because they are being hurt. I use statistics and I describe what is happening in their situation. So.
She just gave her thesis. And did you read all of those books twice?
No, I didn't.
Okay, good. All right, we're running out of time, so if a couple others could talk about your thesis and how you came to the topic, what's it been like? Lauren, go ahead.
So my topic is the medical industry needs to close the gap on the production and development of pediatric medical devices, which basically means there are not a lot of FDA-approved medical devices for children out there, because there's a higher profit margin in the production of adult devices. So a lot of children are providing off-label devices, which is basically not devices not designed for children. so I'm calling for a change for that. But through my advice for anyone who's picking a thesis topic, to do something that you're passionate about, that you like would enjoy researching, because I caught myself one time. I was driving home, and I realized that I was excited to go write my thesis, like when I got home, which is very rare. And, so I would definitely encourage to pick a topic that you're passionate about and that you will enjoy speaking about, because you don't want to pick a topic that you're like, I just have to pick this topic, and then you don't enjoy the process, because thesis is the pinnacle of your education. It's what you're working towards from all 13 years. So you want to enjoy that process, in my opinion, and you don't want to just like let it pass you by, because it's a pretty humbling and surreal opportunity that we're given.
I can go fast. So my topic is about something called the critical race theory, and specifically I'm arguing that this critical race theory is not the solution for racism. If you're interested in critical race theory, or if you don't know about it, May 11th, 8:30 in the morning. Okay, I'll show up, and that'd be awesome. It's the first thesis I'm going to start us off, hopefully strong. So, yeah.
Right. And the whole schedule, if you go to the website, on the first page, there's a tab that says senior thesis. You can click on that and it'll take you to the whole schedule. Jay, what's your topic?
I'm doing that music managers should prioritize artists' mental health and well-being in the music industry. I've just seen way too many documentaries, way too many examples of artists being horribly mistreated, dying at way too early of ages from drug overdose, and managers just standing there, letting it happen. And being a music person myself, wanting to go into that industry, it's been super cool. Just being able to research all that, researching the topic I'm passionate about. And that's also what inspired my major to do business with an emphasis in music, with the eventual plan to manage these artists and help change that. So.
That's great. That's great. A couple more questions. What's the most influential book you've read at Geneva, and why?
I would say for me, The Road. We're reading The Road right now in humanities. And I really like it because it asks a lot of deep questions that you wouldn't really think about. And I love discussing those questions in class and seeing people's what their opinion is and coming up with several conclusions. So it's a very influential book, and it's definitely one of my favorites that we've read all year.
I would say The Road too. I actually read it a long time ago in middle school, so basically I'm reading it twice. It deals with a lot of hard questions that we as high schoolers will probably come up with in college. It's the idea of existentialism, where basically you create your own meaning for yourself. And it's hard because it's in a post-apocalyptic world, so they kind of have to create their own meaning to live. So it's hard for us as high schoolers going to college, where basically we're going to meet a lot of different personalities, a lot of different identities, a lot of different people, and we all wake up in the morning for something different. So it's to come into contact with that is really cool. And it's actually a really cool written book, so, and has a lot of really cool things.
I like The Road too, but I'll change it up a little bit. I think sophomore year we read a book called Dante's Inferno. It definitely was not the lightest of all the books, just like The Road. It talks a lot about the different levels of hell and the punishments in hell. But I think what I liked about it is it really made me think a little bit more about my faith and like the character of God, and throughout all of like the punishments and the nasty stuff or whatever, I think it really did make me appreciate like the loving mercy of God, and how yes, there are some like attributes of God that can be a little scary, and like we're called to fear Him, but also there's a very like merciful and gracious and loving side to Him. And I think it really made me appreciate that and just kind of think more about, okay, how do I view God, and how does like my view of Him shape like the way that I live, I guess. So.
I'm gonna hop back on the Road train. I also agree that that's probably the most influential book. we've been discussing the problem of evil, which is a really big question. How can God exist and evil exist at the same time? And the discussions we've had are very fruitful with our teacher, Mr. Southwick, and it's been really interesting taking this apart from just a book by an author, and then you spread it out to tackle this massive question.
For me, it's actually a book we didn't read all of. Our junior year, we had a worldview class, and we read Mere Christianity by C.S. Lewis. And I'm a very analytical, argumentative person. My parents always tell me I should have joined the debate. And so I've always had a ton of questions, and C.S. Lewis does a really good job of answering a lot of those, and I really enjoyed that book.
All right, last question. What do you think you're going to miss most? I don't think you know what you will miss because you still have it. But what do you think you're going to miss the most when you graduate in just a few weeks and go off to Texas A&M? What do you think you're going to miss?
My mom.
I can't follow that.
Her dad's really great too.
What I will miss most from Geneva, though, is just being in a small school. I liked it a lot. Now I'm going to A&M. I'm going to be in classes of like 200 people, and that's not going to feel so great. But I'm going to do my best to try to meet all the faculty people and just like get to know them, ask them questions, and yeah, I'm going to miss that most about Geneva. Just knowing. I like knowing everybody. I mean, once in a while, I like to branch out and meet other people, but I'm going to miss the smallness and the close-knit community. That's what I'll miss the most.
Probably gonna miss choir the most because choir, in my opinion, is more than just singing. We're like I call it a second family, because what's good about Geneva is that all the grades, it's not separated. You're all together all the time, and so like I have more friends that are underclassmen than I do that are my age. And in choir, it's I have so many friends, and it's just such a humbling experience to sing songs towards God and to intention to worship God. And when I go to college, I'm not going to be in like doing music as much because I've done music my whole life, and so it's definitely going to be really hard to say goodbye to choir because it's more than just and fine art. It's like my second family, I would say, and it's like saying goodbye to your mom or dad, in my opinion. So yeah.
For me, I'd say I'm a very relational person, and I love knowing everyone and love knowing a lot about everyone. This is a little embarrassing, but sometimes when I have free time, I actually just go to HEB and walk around to try to find people that I know so I can talk to them. Don't tell anyone that I do that.
So have you ever seen Lily wandering the aisles at
I'm
HEB?
actually shopping. And so I think that honestly is what I'm going to miss about Geneva and just Bernie. Like, literally, you can know so many people, and I think just like the security of being able to go to HEB and know people, or being able to walk out of a class and know like, oh my gosh, I'm about to see a whole bunch of my friends, and just like that really deep like community and like the relational aspect of it. I think that I'll miss just a small community where it's like, okay, I know I can go to HEB at any time and I'll see people that I can talk to, or I can walk out on the boardwalk at any time and see people that I'm friends with. So I think that is what I'll miss the most. So
I can think of two things. First of all, I'm going to miss football. Although I would like to be continuing my athletic career at Texas A&M University, I will not. But football's been a big part of my life, and I'm really going to miss that and the coaches and the relationships that I built there. Second of all, just the relationships in general. There's a lot of underclassmen that'll just come up to me randomly and give me a bro hug, and I really appreciate that, and I'm going to miss all those underclassmen and the friends that I've made.
Yeah, for me, a huge thing is just the authenticity of Geneva. Everyone here is not at all afraid to be who they are. I feel like at public school you can kind of get away with hiding in the shadows and just pretending to be someone. But here, I mean, Mr. Russell was serious. If you have not been to a induction day, show up. It is crazy. You will see how crazy and fun and goofy everybody is. And just in general, just all the teachers are so genuine in their relationships. They really do care. And that would just be a huge thing. Be welcome.
Well, thank you all for being here. Seniors, thank you for everything you did. We give